This is Daniel Greenfield, and we're going to talk about the state of the country. We have one big country and two sets of laws. These days in America, whether you are punished or not punished doesn't have anything to do with whether you broke laws that are on the books, but the unwritten laws are the ones that really matter. You can riot, you can loot, you can commit all sorts of criminal acts, and that's fine as long as you do it for the right political reasons. But if you commit political offenses, like, say, driving over a Black Lives Matter mural and leaving tire marks on it, or these days a Pride Month mural, well, you, mister, are going to be in very big trouble. When Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, first came into office, he had a zero-day memo which included all the lists of crimes that he would not prosecute. And that list of crimes, it included minor things like armed robbery, as long as nobody got hurt in the process. But of course, Bragg has now indicted Trump for a crime that was not a crime, and that actually, for which the statute of limitations had actually expired. Because there are two sets of laws, and this is true. It's certainly always been true in New York, where back in the day, DA Cyrus Vance decided that Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein didn't do anything really wrong, while at the same time going after a woman who called the police during an argument in Central Park with a bird watcher, and she had to be dragged into court because, of course, that was very politically serious. This has been the case across the nation. When environmental groups burst into Congress, they occupied Nancy Pelosi's office, they superglued themselves to the Capitol tunnels. Well, that was just a political protest. But of course, when people on the right do that, well, that's an insurrection. The difference between an uprising, which is what they call the Black Lives Matter riots, and an insurrection, of course, is political. Much as it was political when the FBI decided that Hillary Clinton really should not be prosecuted under the Espionage Act for keeping classified documents on her home server, which everybody and their second cousin in Beijing had access to. On the other hand, President Trump has now been indicted under the Espionage Act for, well, keeping classified documents in an unsecured manner, according to the Clinton special counsel. The different treatments can be summed up when FBI Director Comey came out and said that no reasonable prosecutor would ever prosecute Hillary Clinton on these charges. But of course, a prosecutor finds it completely reasonable to prosecute President Trump on these charges. This is what happens when you have two different sets of laws, the written and the unwritten, and when you run afoul of them is for political reasons. If you have the right politics, you get a pass. If you have the wrong politics, well, you get book thrown at you. This has been a pattern that has repeated itself over and over and over again. And effectively, this nullifies the rule of law, it nullifies an equal justice system, and it makes the very idea that we have any kind of justice system into a laughable mockery. Because you don't have to have a totalitarian state that just declares itself to be a totalitarian state, one that creates a whole bunch of laws to punish political opponents. All you have to do is selectively enforce those laws. And this is unfortunately what we have now in America. We have selective enforcement. This really began under Obama with what's so-called prosecutorial discretion. One day, Obama got up in the morning and said, well, a whole bunch of illegal aliens here will not be prosecuted anymore. We're going to give them legal status under the DACA due to prosecutorial discretion. These days, prosecutorial discretion means that everybody who comes through south of the border can just come on through south of the border. Prosecutorial discretion. In parts of the country, shoplifting things for $700, $1,000 is okay because prosecutorial discretion. On the other hand, of course, prosecutorial discretion means that you can decide whom to target and for what reasons. If you decide to simply hand out tickets just to Republicans but not to Democrats, well, that's prosecutorial discretion. You're choosing whom to prosecute, and of course it is the totalitarian regime. And this is exactly what we have now. Crimes are prosecuted based not on the actual law, but based on their political implications. And this is also what equity means. It's what building a society around this notion that you have to transform the country, turn it into an ideal, ultimately comes down to. It means you can't just enforce the laws as they are written, rather you have to enforce the laws in order to transform America into an ideal society that is on the right side of history. And how do you do that? Selective prosecution. You selectively prosecute the people who are enemies of the state, and you give the people who are on the right side of history a pass. This is a tyranny, and this is destroying the entire idea of an America that has any kind of justice, that has any kind of justice system that deserves to be respected. It's not about Trump. It is not about any of the particular individuals involved. It's about the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that unless we actually have a justice system that enforces the laws, then we have a society of men, not laws. Until we get back to a society of laws, not men, then what we have is a totalitarian state. This is Daniel Greenfield. Thank you for listening.